welcome back to CW14 Focus. I'm your host, Robert Hornacek. I'm joined by Aaron Burmeister from Burmeister Logging and by Jeff Landon, the president of the Wisconsin Paper Council. We're talking about the paper industry, the logging industry. I wanted to spend a little bit of time in this segment to talk about how you men both got involved in this. You said it kind of started back in the 70s. Were you cutting firewood, you said? Or, I mean, how did you...
I made firewood for some high school teachers. Well, how it started is we had a neighbor that logged some land, and they bulldozed it for farming. And they allowed us to go in there to make firewood. We made more enough that we could burn on the farmstead, so we started trying to utilize some of the other products. And we also cut some popple for cheese boxes that went to Seymour Wood and Ware, and then we made some firewood for teachers. So, and from there I went and worked out welding and stuff for a few years, but then you get into like 82, 83, which if some of the older folks can remember, one of the, they call it the rusty years, where the steel industry really went all to pieces. And then I ended up getting laid off, and then I went back to woods and worked with my brother. So,
has it been a pretty satisfying field to be in?
And the long haul, you'll have days you just wonder why you're doing this stuff, but over the long haul, yeah, it's pretty satisfying and rewarding. You know, to me, it's great. I don't know what I'd do if I wasn't doing this. Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah. Jeff, how did you get involved in the Paper Council and the lobbying, so to speak, if you will, for the industry?
I have always had an interest and fascination in government and politics, which makes me crazy, I guess, on certain levels. I remember dropping literature for candidates when I was 13 years old, and I've worked my entire life in those careers. I've worked for a United States congressman. I actually came into these studios many years ago when I worked for him.
They probably looked a little different.
They did look a little different. But then I got involved in some nonprofit work, did some lobbying, and this position opened up a few years back. And I grew up in Green Bay and Wausau, two communities that obviously have a strong paper background. I had a lot of friends whose parents worked in the mills. My parents did not. And so I knew the importance of the industry, and the opportunity to work on behalf of the paper industry I thought was an incredible opportunity, humbling. I mean, I'm biased, as I said before, but I think this is the most important industry in Wisconsin. Logging is right up there too. And I really wanted to get into this position so I could work on behalf of the industry and make it stronger.
And you really can't have one without the other, right? I mean,
absolutely not.
You got to have a little bit of both.
Paper comes from wood.
Yep.
One area we touched on earlier, and it kind of intersects with both of your lines of work, is the balance between the business and the environment. I guess I heard long ago that a good logger, a good timber industry is the best conservationist there is, because they know their future relies on that forest. So it's in their interest to preserve it as well. You know, I'm somebody who enjoys to go out for a walk in the woods. I hunt. I enjoy hiking. I don't log, but I understand that there's certain things that need to be done to preserve and maintain a forest. Kind of talk to us a little bit about the balance you see, and maybe some misconceptions people might have about your industry.
The balance is, we need all species of trees. As forest ages, the species are going to change. We talked a little earlier about succession. We need to keep the balance. We need the oak trees, we need the maple trees, and if we don't keep opening this forest up, oak trees will not regenerate. Because oak is a sun-loving tree. So we need to get 60% sunshine to that forest floor in order for that tree to grow. Otherwise, you're going to end up with maple and ash. Ash we may have a problem with here in the future with the emerald ash borer, obviously, you know, with Brown County being quarantined. Maple is a long-lived tree, but there's not a lot of food value there for wildlife. So we need to keep trees that animals love. That's how we need to keep the balance. We need the log to keep that balance, to take care of the animals too, along with taking care of the paper industry, the lumber industry, the economy. You know, you take the economy, it all starts in one spot: Mother Earth, farming, logging, fishing, mining. That's where every single dollar starts. Paper will be next step. That's number 2. After that first dollar from the forest or Mother Earth, every dollar after that is recycled. So eventually you'll get to a job like yours interviewing us, but you're probably about number 7 down the line.
Maybe 10, 20.
So the economy in our industry, it's all bad. We're very integrated.
Yeah.
So
Jeff, from your perspective, and we said this, you kind of joked that your email tag says it's okay to print this because it's renewable. Yeah. How important is the balance between the environment and the business?
It's critical. There are more. One of the misconceptions that we talked about before is another one is that there are fewer trees right now in Wisconsin than there were when the paper industry started. It's actually not true. There's been studies that show there are more trees in Wisconsin today than there were in 1848. Trees are a crop, and much like you have to manage any other crop, you have to harvest another crop for purposes that Aaron just described. We need to do the same thing in the forest. We need to go in and manage the forest. Otherwise, you could see, habitat decline. You could also see threats from wildfire. A lot of things that happen out west. We don't see as much of it in Wisconsin, but I think that's because we do manage our forest. We need to do more. There are instances that we bring up, especially in some of the national forests, where we need to go in and do a little bit more of managing the forest, take out some of the timber and make it available for the paper industry, the logging industry, the housing industry, wood that can be used for doors and windows. People have to remember trees are like any other agricultural product. They are crops, and they need to be managed and maintained and harvested and utilized to make sure that they're healthy and that the environment is healthy, and that in the end, as Aaron points out, the economy can be healthy.
And how do you get people to understand that? Because just from talking to you and talking to knowing other folks who might have another opinion, who say, oh, let's just preserve nature. In a way, this industry is preserving nature. That's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely. We are indeed preserving nature. We're making the forest more healthy, which in turn makes trees healthy, which makes wildlife healthy, and provides jobs. And it's difficult sometimes to cut through some of the chatter that you hear. People have this conception that you shouldn't print emails, you shouldn't do things with paper, and that is the farthest from the truth. You need to use paper as a necessary good for a lot of different things, from this type of paper to tissue, which is pretty obvious. And you need to make sure that paper is used and that the trees have to get harvested to use those, and it's natural, it's healthy, and there's too much misconception that it's an evil thing to use paper when that's the farthest from the truth.
We've reached the time to take our next commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back to wrap things up on CW14 Focus.